You are probably the least productive member of your district court, isn't that right? You haven't seen that you ranked the seventh the worst in the country in terms of making decisions? Of all the district court judges in the Seventh Circuit, you're the worst. Here's what I'm trying to understand. Why is your record so bad? Why do you think you deserve to be promoted over all of those others? Help me understand why you have such an abysmal record in moving cases. Well, let me explain what I mean. You have 125 motions pending that you've declined to decide. You rank seventh highest nationally, do you not?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First, where we break down the issues that matter to you, the hardworking, freedom-loving patriots of this great nation. If you want to stay informed, stay ahead, and put America first, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a single episode. Let's get started. Today, we're diving into a fiery exchange between Senator John Kennedy and a judicial nominee whose record is, quite frankly, abysmal. This clip from Forbes Breaking News shows why it's more important than ever to have leaders in Washington who demand accountability. Let me tell you, Senator Kennedy didn't hold back. He grilled this nominee like a 4th of July barbecue, and for good reason.
Judge, welcome.
Thank you.
You are probably the least productive member of your district court, isn't that right?
Well, I have not considered myself in those terms, Senator.
Well, let me explain what I mean. You have 125 motions pending that you've declined to decide.
Let
me finish. That's more than any other district judge in the entire Seventh Circuit. In fact, you rank seventh highest nationally, do you not?
I am not familiar with those statistics, Senator Kennedy.
You haven't looked?
I did look in preparation for this hearing, but I didn't compare myself to others.
You haven't seen that you ranked the seventh the worst in the country in terms of making decisions?
You are the first to tell me this. And I think for me, I stress the quality of my decision-making. And as I explained, I came on. I was the first district judge to come on during this administration.
Yeah, but so were all the others. I mean, there have been 68 district judges confirmed in the 117th Congress. In terms of motions pending for more than 6 months, you rank number 3. You all came on at the same time. You all had the same problems with COVID. You're the third worst. You really think of all the other district judges in the Seventh Circuit, you're the one that ought to be promoted based on this record?
Senator, this is something that I've discussed with my fellow judges. Many of us new judges from...
Not you said you'd never looked at these statistics.
I haven't, these particular statistics I am not familiar with. But in terms of new judges, both from the current administration and the former administration, we are quite a collegial bunch, and oftentimes talk about the pressures of a new judge and the way reassignments work in our district, which is that you get, for example, 300 cases.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. I'm familiar with the procedure in federal court. Here's what I'm trying to understand. Why is your record so bad?
Well, I don't view it that way, Senator. When I look at the quality of my decision-making, the feedback that I get from parties,
of course parties are not going to criticize you. They want you to rule in their favor.
I understand, Senator Kennedy.
I mean, that's just the way it works. Help me understand why you have such an abysmal record in moving cases. I mean, it costs a lot of money to litigate, and people are paying lawyers, and time is money. And of all the district court judges in the Seventh Circuit, you're the worst in terms of moving cases. Why do you think you deserve to be promoted over all of those others?
So, Senator, again, I'm not familiar with the statistics, but I stand by my record and that I give parties what they need. I think, I am regularly in my courtroom. I am regularly issuing decisions. I just came on at a very difficult time where there was a backlog in the courts.
So did everybody else. Let me ask you, when you were a partner in your law firm, you volunteered to write a brief on behalf of the Brady Center. You wrote the brief, and this is what you said. You volunteered for this. You weren't being paid. Is that right?
This was a pro bono case that one of my partners brought in, yes.
You said, quote, assault weapons may be banned because they're extraordinarily dangerous and are not appropriate for legitimate self-defense purposes, close quote. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Just to clarify there, I was local counsel. Our Supreme...
Yeah, but you wrote the brief. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Senator Kennedy, actually, I did not write the brief. The brief was written by...
You signed the brief, though, didn't you?
Correct. I signed the brief.
When you sign a brief, you're testifying to the court that everything in it is true, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they're your words in terms of the court, right?
Well, you're correct, Senator Kennedy. Okay. I would never sign...
Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
So I am not a gun expert, and at the time, that brief, I think, was about 10 years...
You were giving the court advice about, say, ban assault weapons. What is... You told the court you were an expert. Just tell me what you wanted to ban.
Senator, sitting here today, as I said, I did not write that brief. I was local counsel.
Sign the brief.
I understand. At the time...
Tell me what you wanted to ban. That's all I want to know, Judge.
I don't remember the exact definition of assault weapons in the ordinance that was at issue.
So you submitted a brief to an appellate brief, you signed it, and you don't know what, and you said abolish assault weapons, and you don't know what you wanted them to abolish?
Senator, at the time that I signed the brief, I read the brief because our Supreme Court required an Illinois bar member to sign the brief. I was not responsible for researching the content.
You were responsible for the brief.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sitting here today, I do not remember the characteristics of that were cited in the ordinance for the assault weapons ban. It's not an area of practice that I have specialized in. I'm sure 10 years ago I could have answered your question.
And
but
Judge,
sitting here today,
you think you deserve to be promoted with this record?
Senator, I stand by my record. I stand by my record.
Now, let me set the stage for you. Senator Kennedy starts off by saying this nominee is probably the least productive judge in her district. Can you imagine? The least productive. And she doesn't deny it. Instead, she dodges, deflects, and gives excuses about how she didn't look at the statistics. Folks, how can you even apply for a promotion when you don't know your own track record? This woman has 125 motions she's left undecided, more than any other judge in her circuit. And get this, she ranks 7th worst in the entire country. 7th. This is the person who thinks she deserves a spot higher up the judicial ladder? And what does she do when Kennedy confronts her? She says she focuses on the quality of her decisions. Patriots, let me ask you, what good is quality if people are waiting months, even years, for their cases to move forward? Justice delayed is justice denied, plain and simple. Now, here's where it gets laughable. The nominee tries to blame her backlog on the pandemic and how hard it was to come into the job during COVID. But Kennedy shuts that down right away. He points out that 68 other judges were confirmed during the same time period, and they all face the same challenges. Yet, somehow, this nominee is one of the worst performing judges in the entire country. Let me tell you something, Patriots. This is what happens when people are rewarded for mediocrity. This nominee has no accountability for her failures, no plan to fix them, and absolutely no shame in asking for a promotion she hasn't earned. Now, let's talk about the second half of this grilling, because it's a doozy. Kennedy raises a brief the nominee signed on behalf of the Brady Center, where she advocated for banning assault weapons. And when Kennedy asks her a straightforward question, "What did you mean by assault weapons?" she completely falls apart. She goes on and on about how she didn't write the brief, how she was just local counsel, and how she doesn't even remember what the term assault weapon meant in the case. Are you kidding me? She signed the brief, folks. She put her name on it. That's like signing a contract without reading it. Here's the thing. This isn't just about a vague legal definition. This is about a core constitutional issue, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. This nominee signed a brief arguing that certain guns should be banned, and now she's pretending she doesn't even remember what she wanted to ban? That's not just irresponsible, it's dangerous. We need judges who will defend our Constitution, not trample all over it because they're too careless or too radical to know what they're doing. Patriots, this video raises a critical question. Do we really want judges like this sitting on higher courts? This nominee has a terrible record of moving cases, no accountability for her failures, and a history of siding against the Constitution. And yet, she thinks she deserves a promotion? Senator Kennedy hit the nail on the head when he asked her, over and over, "Why is your record so bad?" And you know what? She didn't have an answer. She just kept dodging and deflecting. That's not the kind of leadership we need in our judiciary. We need judges who respect the law, respect the Constitution, and respect the people who are counting on them to deliver justice. This hearing is a perfect example of why elections matter. The judges who sit on our courts are critical to preserving the values that make this country great: freedom, accountability, and justice. But if we keep letting nominees like this slide through, we're going to end up with a judiciary that's unrecognizable, one that's soft on accountability, hostile to the Second Amendment, and indifferent to the needs of ordinary Americans. So here's what I need you to do, patriots. First, share this video with everyone you know. People need to see this exchange and understand what's at stake. Second, stay informed. Follow these hearings, pay attention to who's being nominated, and make your voice heard. And third, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to America First, and ring that notification bell. We're here to fight for the truth, to fight for our Constitution, and to fight for you. Thanks for tuning in, patriots. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and always put America first. Until next time, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.